We continue now at the top of Daf Kufya Tesamid Beis in Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 119b. The Brisa concludes that this teaches us Shemegalgalin Zuchus al Yedei Zakai, that merit is caused through those who are meritorious, V'chova al Yedei Chayev, and liability through those who are liable. And the Rashbam explains Shemegalgalim Zuchus, that the merit comes, meaning what's the merit? Shabonim v'hakrovim yirshu es kroveim, that these children and relatives can inherit their relatives when those relatives die. Al Yedei Zakai, those halachas, it came through people who were meritorious, meaning the Benos Tzlafchad, the daughters of Tzlafchad. It was through them that these halachas were taught. And v'chov, and liability, hainu skila, that refers to the death penalty of skila, of stoning, shechamura, which is strict. It's the strictest of the penalties. The noach ula adam lidon bechenek, it's better that a person should get chenek. And al yedei chayev, that halacha was taught through someone who was liable, through the makoshesh, through the one who gathered the wood in the midbar. And the Gemara continues, v'isal kadaitach. Now, if it should enter your mind that Eretz Yisrael muchzekes, that Eretz Yisrael is considered muchzekes, and the idea is again that that's why we say Tzlafchad got a double portion in Eretz Yisrael, because it was considered that Chefer, his father, was already in possession of his inheritance of Eretz Yisrael. So if that is the case, so my kamestafkale. So the Brisa just said that Moshe Rabbeinu was in doubt. He wasn't sure whether Tzlafchad gets a double portion or not. Why was he not sure? Eretz Yisrael is muchzekes. And the Gemara answers simply, Higufa kamestafkale. That's exactly what he was in doubt about. He wasn't sure whether Eretz Yisrael is considered muchzekes. Because it's written in the pasuk, V'nasati osalachem morasha ani Hashem. It says that Eretz Yisrael is a morasha. What exactly does that mean? Yerusha hi lachem me'avoseichem. On the one hand, we can say it's like a Yerusha from your fathers. O dilma shemorishin ve'ein on yorshin, or maybe it means that it's being bequeathed, but it's not really inherited. The point over here is the Gemara saying this was the suffix. When it says morasha, does that mean that the Yotzei Mitzrayim were considered in possession, or they're just bequeathing it, but they had no possession? Upashtu le tarvayu, and then they answered that both are true. Yerusha lachem me'avoseichem, it's an inheritance for you from your fathers. Umorishin ve'ein on yorshin, and you're bequeathing it, you're not actually going to inherit it, because you're not actually going to enter Eretz Yisrael, but it is considered that you're in possession. That was the answer that was determined after the Benos Tzlafchad came forward. And the Gemara continues, V'hainu d'chsiv, and that's what's written in a different pasuk, the idea being that there's a prophecy over here that they're not going to enter Eretz Yisrael. That's written in a different pasuk as well. It says, Tiviyemo v'sitoemo b'har nachaloscha. It says you're going to bring them as if you're not going to bring us. We're not going to enter Eretz Yisrael. Tivienu lo nemar ela tiviyemo. It doesn't say Tivienu, it says Tiviyemo. The idea is Malamin, this teaches shemisnabin, that they prophesized ve'ein on yodin ma misnabin. They didn't even realize what they were prophesizing. They were essentially saying, those in the midbar were saying, we are not going to enter Eretz Yisrael. Our descendants are going to enter Eretz Yisrael. They were saying this prophecy without even realizing what they were saying when they said the word Tiviemo. And the Rashbam explains, O Dilma Morishin Ve'ein on Yarshin. Again, maybe the pasuk means they're bequeathing, but they're not inheriting, meaning L'chud Kamar. Maybe they're only Morishin, but there's no Yerusha. Aval Eina Yerusha Lehem. Maybe it's not a Yerusha for them, and they're not in possession. V'lo Yitol Baha B'chor Chelik B'chorin. So then the firstborn is not going to get the double portion, because the Yotzei Mitzrayim are not considered in possession. Upashtu Le Mishmaya. And then the answer from heaven was, the Tarvayu Mashma, that they're both true. Midamar Le Rachman of Havarta Zechelik B'chora. From the fact that the pasuk talks about the chelik bechora using the word va'avarta shmamina de Yerusha hi lachem me'avoseichem nami kamar rachmana. That shows that it was a Yerusha from your fathers. The Torah was saying that as well. Avo morishin ve'ein on yorshin memela haviyada. The fact that they're bequeathing but not actually inheriting because they're not entering Eretz Yisrael, that's already known memela. It's already known automatically. Kiddafarishas, as I explained, v'hai de pashale tarvayu lo kai amorishin ve'ein am yorshim ela a Yerusha hi lachem me'avoseichem kai. The morishin we already know about. Now we're saying also it's also Yerusha. We automatically know that the pasuk is therefore saying both things are true. It says Morasha doesn't actually say Yerusha. And of course, those who died in the midbar weren't actually going to inherit. The Rashbam says this appears to be the proper explanation of the Gemara. And then the Gemara said, the Rashbam here seems to have a slightly different girsa from our Gemara, but the point is the same. Similarly, we find by Tiviemo, dahai morasha asal lehisnabos alein. Just like the word morasha is a bit of a nevuah, the morishin ve'enon yarshin, that they're bequeathing, but they won't actually get the land of Eretz Yisrael. V'af agav shelo chatu adayin chetet de meraglim, even though the sin of the meraglim didn't happen yet. So really, it wasn't yet decreed that they're not going to enter Eretz Yisrael. V'lo nigzer gezerah, the decree didn't happen yet, so, and still there was this prophecy that they're not going to get the land. Kach anu motzim pasuk acher shenisnabu shelo yikansu la'aretz. We find another pasuk where they also prophesied that they wouldn't enter the land. V'af al pi shadayin lo nigzer aleim even though the gezerah that they shouldn't enter wasn't, that gezerah didn't happen yet, and that's tiviemo la'achera mashma. Tiviemo sounds like you're bringing someone else into Eretz Yisrael, but we are not going to be the ones that enter Eretz Yisrael. And the Gemara continues, the pasuk says again by the Benos Slavchad vata'amodna lifnei Moshe v'lifnei Elazar HaKohen v'lifnei HaNesiim v'chol ha'eda. It says that they stood before Moshe and Elazar and the Nesiim and all of the congregation. And the pasuk doesn't make sense. After amdu lifnei Moshe v'chulu v'lo amru lehen davar, they stood first before Moshe with no answer. V'lo amru lehen davar, he said nothing to them. V'amdu lifnei HaNesiim, and then after they don't get an answer from Moshe and Elazar, then they go to the Nesiim v'chol ha'eda. It doesn't make sense. You wouldn't go to the greatest person first and not get an answer and then go to somebody lesser. And so the Gemara says, the Brisa rather says, Elasares HaMikra v'darshu. Rather, you have to rearrange the pasuk to learn it that way, darshan it that way. Divrei Rabbi Yoshia, those are the words of Rabbi Yoshia. In other words, Rabbi Yoshia is saying what it really means is they stood before Moshe after they had stood before Elazar, and they stood before Elazar after they had already stood before the Nesiim, etc. And the Brisa continues, Abba Chanan Amar Mishum Rabbi Eliezer. Abba Chanan says in the name of Rabbi Eliezer, Beveis HaMedrash Hayu Yoshvin, they were actually in the Beis Medrash. All of them were in the Beis Medrash. V'halchu v'yamdu lehen lefnei kulan, and they really went and they stood in front of all of them. And the Gemara continues, B'maika miflagi. So what are they arguing about? Meaning, what is the root of the machlokas between Rabbi Yoshia and Abba Chanan from Rabbi Eliezer? The machlokas is as follows: Mar Savar, one holds cholkin kavod letalmid b'makom harav. We accord honor to the student even when the Rebbe is there, and that opinion will be the opinion of Abba Chanan from Rabbi Eliezer, that they were all in the Beis Medrash, and so therefore there was honor that was accorded to the students even in the presence of the Rebbe. Umar Savar, but the other one holds ein cholkin, meaning Rabbi Yoshia holds that wouldn't be true. We would not give kavod to the Talmud if the Rav is there, and so therefore you have to rearrange the pasuk and say that they went to the lesser individuals first. And the Gemara says v'hilchasa cholkin v'hilchasa ein cholkin. The halacha is that we do give kavod to the Talmud b'makom harav, but the halacha also is that we don't give kavod to the Talmud b'makom harav. And the Gemara says kasha hilchasa. That seems to be a contradiction. One halacha against the other. Which one is it? And the Gemara answers hilchasa lo kasha. It's not a contradiction in terms of what the halacha is. Had de palagle rabbi yikra, had de lo palagle rabbi yikra. In a situation where the Rebbe of the Talmud shows the Talmud honor, so then we can also give kavod to that Talmud b'makom harav. But in a situation of lo palagle rabbi yikra, if the Rebbe does not accord the Talmud honor, so then we also are not supposed to show kavod to the Talmud in the place of the Rav. And the Gemara continues, Tana was taught, Benos Slavchad, the daughters of Slavchad, Chachmanio saying they were wise, Darshanio saying they interpreted the psukim, and Sidkanio saying they were righteous. Chachmanio saying they were wise, Shalafisha Dibra, because they spoke at the right moment. The Yamar Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak, because Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak says, Melamed Shaya Moshe Rabbeinu Yoshev V'doresh B'parshas Yivam. And at this moment when they spoke, Moshe Rabbeinu was sitting and darshaning the parsha of Yibum. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Ki yesh v'achem yachdav. It says when the brothers are together, the idea of Yibum, again, that one of the brothers dies, and then his wife, the widow, is going to marry her brother-in-law. So Amru Lo, so they said to him, when Moshe Rabbeinu was darshaning this pasuk of Yibum, the halacha is by Yibum, there's only Yibum if the man who dies has no children. And so they said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Im keben anu chashuvin. Now, if we're the same as a son, meaning we count as they're having children, and there's no Yibum because we exist, so then Tanol lanu nachla keben, so then we should get an inheritance like a son, because we count as a son in terms of the halachas of Yibum. And in Malav, and if we're not counted as a son, so then it should count as though Tzlafcha died without children, so then Tesiyavi Mimenu, so then our mother should do Yibum. So which one is it? And so Miyad, so immediately Vayakrev Moshe's Mishpatan Lefnei Hashem, Moshe brought their case case before Hashem, because Moshe Rabbeinu realized they did have a point that if they're considered to be children when it comes to Yibum, so they should be considered to be children and inherit when it comes to Yerusha. And the Gemara continues, Darshanio saying they knew how to interpret the Psukim, Shayu Omros Ilu Hayu Lo Bein Lo Dibarna, because they said if he did have a son, we wouldn't have spoken. We would understand that the son should inherit and not the daughters. But the Gemara says V'atanya Bas, but there's another brisa that says that they were saying if he had a daughter, we wouldn't have spoken. Now that doesn't make any sense because they are the daughters. So Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah says Sami Mikan Bas. You have to remove this brisa which has the word Bas. There's no way to interpret that brisa. Abaya says Afilu Haya Bas Leben Lo Dibarni. You actually could interpret that brisa because what they mean to say is even if there just was a daughter to his son, let's say he had a son and the son died, but the son had a daughter, then also we would not have spoken because we should not be inheriting in the place of a Bas Haben. If there's a Bas Haben and there's also a Bas, the Bas does not inherit. And the Gemara continues, Tzidkanio saying they were righteous, Shelo Nisu Elo Lahagun Lahen, they only married those who were fitting for them. And the Gemara continues along those lines, Tani Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov taught, Afilu Ketana Shabahen, even the youngest of them, Lo Nisis Pechusa Me'arbaim Shana, did not get married at less than 40 years old, meaning they made sure to marry husbands who were righteous, who were appropriate, even if it took a long time to find such husbands. That's what it means that they didn't get married at less than 40 years old. It took until that age to find the appropriate husband. The Gemara continues, but does that really make sense? Is it really true that they would wait all the way till 40 to get married? But didn't Rav Chisda say, if a girl gets married younger than 20, she can have children until she's 60. If she gets married when she's 20, she's only able to have children until 40. And if she gets married at 40, she's not able to give birth anymore. So they wouldn't have waited that long to get married, because if a woman gets married that late, she can't have children. And so the Gemara says, no, but since they were righteous, they had a miracle happen to them like Yocheved, that even though they were older, they were still physically younger, which is exactly what happened to Yocheved. Techsiv, as it's written in the Pasuk, Vayelech Ishmi Beis Levi, it says a man from the house of Levi went, Vayikach es Bas Levi, and he took a daughter of Levi. That's referring to Amram remarrying Yocheved when she was older, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Kuf Chaf Amud Aleph.